Hey, good morning, Horizon Church, and happy Labor Day. It's a nice holiday weekend. And it is actually Saturday, but I was just chatting with Donna, and we talked about going for a hike on Monday. And if we do, we will likely leave early in the morning, so I don't want to hang around and have to do this on Monday morning. So I thought I walk up to church and record it. So it's since it's Humor Monday and it's a Labor Day. I want to tell you a funny story about work. I and I've talked about this before. I had a painting business for a while. Put me through college and seminary, and there was one year, a little over a year, when I had a partner, a guy named Dean. I won't share last names, but Dean and I were partners, and it worked out really well because I had all the painting experience and I had the equipment, and Dean happened to work for a paint store, so he had access to the paint and supplies, could get them at a discount rate, and hard worker. So it was a good partnership. And then after a year or so, I can't remember, but he moved on in life, and our partnership dissolved in a very friendly way. But for the 1 year or so that we were working together, it was a really good partnership. Really enjoyed Dean, a really good friend. I was in his wedding, and anyway, fun story about this one job that we did. We got hooked up with a guy who owns some apartments. And so we would occasionally paint some of his apartments. And any of you who have ever lived in an apartment or owned apartments, you know typically how that goes. When somebody moves out, the painters and the carpenters all come in and they do, they just freshen everything up, paint everything. And usually it's just kind of, hey, just paint it all one neutral color. And so sometimes, sometimes guys will even come in with sprayers and everything gets sprayed or rolled. And it's not the prettiest paint job. And we kind of prided ourselves on the fact that we did good work, and we did. So when we did some of these apartments, we the owner of the apartment buildings knew that we weren't just going to come in and spray and just roll everything, windows and doors and everything. But we also knew that you know cost was an issue, so they were always kind of hurry up jobs. But we did this one apartment one time, and we had given the guy a pack of color samples, and I don't even know if they use these anymore. I'm pretty sure they do, but there was a little booklet um, about 3 inches thick, maybe, and it was just full of color chips. And you know how they're always arranged by, there will be kind of all the blues and the yellows and the greens and the reds, etc. And from one chip to the other, the shade is just slightly different. They're all numbered, etc. And Dean, who took care of, Dean, because he took care of the paint supplies, he's the one who dealt with the apartment owner when it came to picking paint colors. So Dean gave him the little sample booklet or the little packet of colors, and he picked one. And we were going to be painting all the walls in the whole apartment all the same. The trim got an accent color. The trim wasn't going to be the same color. It got an accent color, and we both thought it was very odd that when Dean showed me the colors that he had picked, it was a bright orange color. And both of us, it wasn't quite that blaze orange that hunters use, but it was close. It was a bright orange color. And we were both kind of shocked. And I talked to Dean. I was like, "Are you sure that's what he picked?" And Dean said, "Yeah." He said the paper clip was right here. Apparently, he put a paper clip on the paint book somehow. I don't remember exactly how he picked it or what the issue was, but Dean said that's what he picked. So, we got to work and we're putting this color on it, and honestly, it was horrendous. It was horrible. And every once in a while, he would stop by with his wife, and his wife was so angry, and she kept saying, "You picked this color," and he's like, "Well, yeah." And they actually thought about changing the color, but we were so far along in the process that he thought, well, it's not worth it. And again, how it is with apartments. It's like, yeah, somebody's going to live here for a year and 2 months, and then we'll be back to painting again. So we'll change it next time. So we painted this color, this orange color. The trim was an accent. The trim color was nice. It was more of, gosh, I would guess you would call it peach, maybe. A nice peach color, yeah. So we did this, and it was absolutely horrible, and you could tell that the owner of the apartment hated it, and his wife just, oh man, she was so angry at him for picking this color. She could not believe that he picked it, and he kept saying, well, I didn't know it would look this bad when we put it on the walls. I just didn't think it was going to be this dark. And by the way, I had learned a lesson. Donna knows this. When I learned kind of the hard way, when people were picking colors, depending on the conversation we had and depending on how artistic the person was, I would often go one shade lighter than the color they picked. They would pick a color, and I would often go a shade lighter when I actually ordered to paint, because I learned the hard way that when you put the paint on the walls, it's never quite the same as what it looks like on that little paint chip. And people often ended up, saying, "Hey, go lighter." Anyway, so we finished this apartment, and again, I wish I could remember how he picked his color, but it was just horrible. If you can, I think it was like a typical three, and it was a house, where the apartment was like one floor, and of course there's somebody below and somebody above. So this one floor, you walked in, and the three rooms of the apartment were just this bright orange color. And it was ugly. It was just ugly as sin. So, he took credit for blowing it, the owner of the apartment, and he recognized it was his fault. He picked the wrong color, and was one of those, we'll fix it next time around. So a year or so later, quite a while later, I was using that same paint deck, that deck of colors, and I was flipping through them. I was sitting down in the living room with somebody, I don't remember who it was anymore, flipping through the colors, and I got to the colors that were a shade of orangish, brownish, in there. And I saw this notation by this one paint chip on there, and it had the name of the owner of the apartment. And I'm looking at it, and I'm thinking, well, this is a pretty nice color. I wonder why his name is here. So I realized, in fact, I ended up calling Dean. I'm chuckling, and I called Dean. We weren't working together anymore. I said, "Hey, Dean," he was married by this time. I said, "Hey, Dean, I want to stop by and I want to show you something." So I drove over to his house, apartment actually, and I showed him the paint deck, and I said, "Look, Dean, look at this one color. It's got," I won't say his name. I said, "It's got the owner," because my mom knows him. It was, in fact, she worked for him. She was his secretary for a while. So I said, "Look, it's got his name by this one color." And Dean's face got bright red, and he said, "Oh no." And when we put the story together, what Dean had done is he had talked to the guy, the guy picked the color, and somehow either he or Dean, this was never resolved, when they put the paper clip on that paint deck, he probably put the paper clip on several pages of the paint deck. And when Dean got to the paint store to order the paint, somehow when he pulled the pages apart, the paper clip stayed on the wrong page. And so we found out a year or so later that Dean had mistakenly ordered the wrong paint. And it was our fault and not the owner's fault. And Dean and I, we sat there, and Dean is like, we can never, ever let this guy see a paint deck. So I don't know whatever happened. I never painted any more apartments for that guy. But yeah, somehow he picked the right color, and it really would have been a nice color. It would have gone really nice with the peach trim. Kind of I know it sounds horrible, but a slightly tannish orangish color that would have gone on the walls, and then accented by this peach trim would have looked really nice. And instead, because of Dean's mistake, he got an apartment that was bright orange. And when I look back, and when we both thought about the fact that he and his wife would stand in there and he would say, I can't believe I picked this color. And she was like, what is wrong with you that you pick such a bright orange color for these walls? It was our fault. Specifically, it was Dean's fault for screwing up with his paint deck and ordering the wrong colors. So that's and I guess my confession is, by that point, we never went back and fixed it. I'm not sure what kind of a confession this is or a humorous story this is, but it's a true story. Funny or not, it's what we did one time in an apartment. And so those are the apartments, some newly married or some guy just out of college rented that apartment and lived for a while in a in a bright orange apartment, all because of a screw up with a paint deck. Anyway, so that's my Labor Day, my work story. One of the many stories that I have about funny things that have gone wrong at work. I think I've told you another one or two. I remember telling you one on a Humor Monday about dumping iced tea down the back of a judge when I worked at the Eden Resort in Lancaster. So, hey, we can thank God for work. Thank God for the blessings that work brings to our lives. And thank God for the fact that because of work, we get to bless other people, bless our church, bless our communities and our neighbors, and our world because of the resources that work brings to us. And, we get to use our skills and our abilities and get to be productive. It's a gift from God to be able to do that. So let me pray for you guys and pray for all of us. And then we'll get on with our Monday. Hope you guys have a good Monday. So let me pray. God, I want to thank you for the opportunity that we have to work, whether it's work that we get paid for or not. God, we have the opportunity to be productive with our lives, to do something. Being made in your image, it really is a gift for us. God, I pray that with our work, I pray, God, that we'd recognize the blessing that it is. God, I know that in a fallen world, work comes with a sense of frustration. Can't escape it, can't get away from it. And God, I know that right now, just the whole work environment is somehow turned upside down. I know, God, that there are people who have had to shift entirely what their work lives look like. I know, God, that there are people struggling, working very hard to keep businesses open and going, struggling to find workers and laborers and people who are willing to do a job. And God, I pray that you be at work in our work, in the work that we do. I pray, God, you'd remind us of the blessing that work is, the privilege that we have of serving our communities, our neighbors, our families, and you, not only through the income that we generate, but also just through the tasks that we do. God, I pray that you'd help us this day to be people who are kind to human beings that we meet. I pray, God, that you give us a burden for people who are far from you. I pray, God, that you'd give us a passion to see justice in our world. Pray, God, that you give us a good day with our family, our friends, and whatever we have the opportunity today. And I pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, everybody. Hope you guys have a great day. Good picnic day if that's what you're doing. I hope that I'm out hiking somewhere, maybe on the Appalachian Trail. So love you all, and see you tomorrow.